I'm just kidding. Let's do it again. Boom! That's not there. When it comes to the electricity here in the new studio space, I'm no certified electrician, but my grandpa is, and he is the one that is going to draw all the electricity in the new studio. He's like I don't know what you call it in English, but like a hustomte, garden gnome. Vad är det för något idag då? Ha det bra, tack för hjälpen. Samma. The new 35mm f1.4 lens from Sony. Super stoked to have it and give it a try. I think I know what this is. Secret. Ooh! The Viltrox 24mm 1.8 full frame lens. This is an exciting one. Ooh. Super lightweight. Huh, let's see how it looks like. Oh, this looks good. 24mm f1.8 and the autofocus is coming along very good. No sound coming from the lens. Viltrox, thanks so much for sending this over. Oh, are you? I can't really show you what's inside yet, but it's a new product from Nanlite. Thank you, Nanlite, for sending that over. I can't wait to try it out. I thought I'd show you the progress because I've started putting in some walls over here. Unfortunately though, I made a mistake when I put up the beams because these beams are 45 by 70 millimeters, but we are going to use 120 millimeter insulation and then I have to make them thicker, so I should have used 120 millimeter beams. Now I have to like build them out with more of these beams. I mean, like, making mistakes is how we learn stuff, and probably should have looked that up earlier, but I was so into the zone of building. But yeah, I think it's gonna be good either way. And also put in some beams for the roof, and I'm gonna try to finish up this side too. I'm still waiting for more of these styrofoam plates because they've been out of stock for a while, so I can't finish up this side of the roof before I get those, but I think I'm gonna get them very soon. Gillar du utsikten där nere? Ja? Där leker man inte bort det. All the beams in place on the first two rows. Looks good. Oh, oh. That, there's sawdust everywhere. Problem solved. Whenever you're doing anything with insulation, you need to have one of these because otherwise your lungs is gonna feel that you didn't do something wrong. You know what? I'll take the rest tomorrow. I remember when I started out with photography and videography, and I thought that everything was so incredibly expensive. And I remember that all the products that I looked up, I almost always opted in to buy the cheaper model. But the more things that I buy, I realized that it's not always the best thing to do, because when you opt in for the cheap model, you usually have to buy a new one because you initially wanted to have the more expensive one to begin with. If you buy something that is too cheap, then it's usually not gonna last you for a long period of time. But if you go up just a little bit in the price, then it usually last for a longer period of time, which will make this a better investment than going for the cheapest one. But what I've experienced is that if you go up another step to the more expensive one, which is the product that you initially looked at, then that's gonna last you for a longer time than any of the earlier products. That is why like the power tools that I'm using to expand the studio isn't the cheap ones that you can find on Jula and Biltema and all that. I try to invest into things that will last for the future so that I can use them for a real long time. And the same principle kind of applies when it comes to camera lenses, because if you have a camera lens that is placed kind of in the cheaper range, then the quality that you get out from that lens is not going to be as you initially wanted it to be. But if you go to somewhere in the midpoint, then the quality that you will get out of that lens is going to be way higher than the cheaper lens that you looked at first. And then you can of course go up to the super pro stuff that is going to cost you a fortune, and there's going to be a huge increase of the quality from the cheaper lenses. But there is of course exceptions to this as well, where a cheap lens can be just as good as an expensive lens. But both the 24mm GM and the Viltrox works really well, but there is a couple of differences between these two lenses. For example, you can see that the weather sealing gasket here in the back is only available on the G Master lens, and you don't have any weather sealing on the Viltrox. And when it comes to the aperture ring, the G Master is clickable, but this is something that you don't have on the Viltrox. But when it comes to overall image quality, I actually think that the Viltrox looks just as good. This is the Viltrox 24mm at f1.8. IAF seems to work just flawlessly. Bokeh rendition looks good. I like it. And this 24mm GM lens at 1.8. Autofocus works flawlessly, no issues at all, and bokeh looks incredibly good. I would say that this is a great lens for anyone that is just starting out and wants to have a good 24mm lens that looks good with a good bokeh and all that stuff. But this is still my favorite 24mm lens that I've ever used, and my favorite lens overall. I guess what I'm trying to say here is that whenever you're buying something that you're gonna use as a tool to make money with, don't cheap out and go for the cheapest lens or tool that you can find. Buy the lens or tool that you know you want to have to be able to do the job that you want to do.